The film begins on February 3rd, and that day is our protagonist Walter Sparrow's birthday. He works at Animal Control and anticipates commending his birthday with his significant other, Agatha, that night. Anyway, about a moment before the end of work, he gets a call from Sybil, his boss, to inform him regarding a canine that needs subduing. He is furious with Sybil for destroying his arrangement that day, yet he attempts to tame the wild canine, effectively baiting it in. Suddenly, he gets diverted by the canine's name Ned. Meanwhile, Ned gets away. He pursues Ned to Laura's graveyard. In the meantime, Agatha readies his birthday cake and waits for him at the bookshop. While holding up, her eyes grab the eye of a book named Number 23, and she takes it before Walter shows up. She flips through the book and pursues a few pages of it. When Walter arrives, he meets Agatha in the bookshop and she tells him about the book. When they see that it is a book about fixation, she orders to get it as his birthday present. Sometimes thereafter, they join other relatives for the festival prior to getting back. Walter wants for an extraordinary time frame and selects to remain outside with Agatha to guarantee their child Robin doesn't intrude on their moment that evening. The next day he meets with his work counselor. In light of the fact that Ned has charmed him, the counselor offers him a day leave at work, and he utilizes the whole day to read this book. He describes about fingerling and claims he cherished books as a youngster. The explanation he is productive is not on the grounds that he likes to read, but since he realizes schooling is the only thing that can remove him from that shithole town. His father was a bookkeeper, and regardless of the amount, he cherished his dad. He never wanted to be like him, since he was too cash cognizant and never offered him the consideration he really wanted growing up. They had a neighbor whose canine usually ran into their home. He would constantly pursue the canine back home. However, the main rule his dad gave him was that he should not follow the canine out of their compound. He complies with this standard until his 8th birthday celebration, when he, in the long run, follows the canine to his neighbor's home and finds his neighbor's dead body in the house. The cops examine the case and they close the case as a suicide. Yet he was certain that the woman was killed by an insane killer, which is one thing that spiked him into turning into a criminal investigator. Agatha shows up and meets Walter pursuing the book. Walter tells her he feels fingerling is composing his biography, since he likewise grew up with a similar youth. However, Agatha lets him know fingerling is nothing similar to him and he ought to pursue the book totally prior to contrasting. He attempts to persuade her that his neighbor additionally had a canine. He had consistently pursued the canine, which inspired him to work in animal control. She demands that it isn't his story and he ought to continue on. Walter keeps pursuing the book. In the following part, Fingerling has now turned into an investigator and he has a sweetheart called Fabricia. They are so in love and enjoy having a great time wherever. On his 32nd birthday, he finds a new case to pursue a self-destructive young woman whom he calls the Suicide Blonde. He persuades her not to hang herself and playfully says this is on the grounds that it's his birthday. She is then seen happy with his explanation. She begins letting him know that the number 23 is tormenting her. She can do nothing without the number, and the number will anyhow kill her. She inquires as to whether he really wants more proof to be fair. Fingerling doesn't really accept that all she is saying, so he recounts her a story to persuade her and expects she currently needs to live. When he leaves her condo, she leaps off the window and passes on. He is frustrated and visits her boyfriend the following day, yet find him dead. He meets Fabricia later, and when he tells her what he has gone through, she gets turned on and they make out thoroughly. Anyway, since that day, he notices the number 23 everywhere he goes. The following day, he visits the lodging with Fabricia. Whether he hears the only accessible room is number 23, and he additionally sees the time is 23. In their room, she demands him to tie her up and recreate her dying. In spite of his profound love for her, he cannot force himself to hurt her anyway. That evening, he dreams about killing her. The following day, Walter awakens and counts the shoes. They have 23. He lets Agatha know how much the story connects with him, telling her his name approaches 23, his social security number, the way that they shaded their home red, all accounts to 23. Their son even figures out their home address to be 23. He visits the bookshop to find about the writer, just to find out it's the writer's only work. Agatha is now concerned with his fixation and suggests he talk with her companion Isaac, who tells him that numbers are simply conspiracy theories. He ought to complete this book and affirm in the event that it mirrors him. As Fingerling proceeds with his story, he meets his manager at work, Phoenix, letting him know all he is going through, and Phoenix prompts that he should have some time off. He does that, however, Fabricia isn't happy with it and she leaves. He furiously discards a portion of her shoes as it is 23, and when she returns, she tosses shoes at him and leaves. He, in the long run, finds Phoenix making out with Fabricia and acknowledges he has lost her. He envisions tossing him out of the window, yet cannot force himself to do it in real. He notices that Phoenix's tie is red, which signifies the number 23. Walter reviews Isaac's red ties, interfacing them to Isaac's heartfelt interest in Agatha. He frightfully goes out the following day, abandoning a letter for Agatha. He goes to the same hotel where Fingerling remained with Fabricia and takes room number 23. There he finishes the story, which closes in chapter 22, and how Fingerling got Fabricia and Phoenix making out in the shrub. How he killed Fabricia and hid her body. Yet Phoenix enters and he is captured for the wrongdoing. The story closes where Fingerling remains by his window to commit suicide, just like Suicide Blonde. Walter is frustrated towards the finish of the story and unintentionally experiences Ned outside the window. He pursues it to the burial ground where Ned lies next to Laura's burial place. He figures out Ned is the watchman of the dead and sees Laura. She died at 23 years of age and her body is not found. He pursues about Laura's demise and sees her boyfriend Kyle, who was captured for the demise, has a similar story as Fingerling, so he expects Kyle composed the book. He visits Kyle at the jail, yet Kyle denies killing Laura or having any familiarity with the book, believing Kyle's words as he does not have 23 in his name. Later, Robin uncovers that he has found a location while pursuing the book. Subsequently, they choose to send 23 boxes to the location, wanting to draw the writer out. The next day, a dubious man comes to the mail office and Walter stands up to him. Anyway, he says Walter ought to be dead. He then goes after Walter and slices his own throat. After that, Agatha requests that Walter should leave with Robin. Yet before the man kicks the bucket, he gives Agatha a location to his foundation and requests that she should visit. In the meantime, at home, Walter and Robin find stored away words in the book that sends them to a location requesting that they dig 23 steps. In the organization, Agatha finds a red room with 23 letters around it and a crate with Walter's name. As she opens it, somebody moved towards her. After digging, Walter and Robin see a skeleton and they call the police. Anyway, as they return, the bones cannot be found again. Agatha comes to bring them back home and they continue to gripe that the killer took the bones. At home, he sees mud on Agatha's hands and acknowledges she took the bones. He blames her for composing the book and killing the person in question. Yet she denies it. She owns up to taking the bones and uncovers he is the person who killed the young lady and composed the book. She shows him his crate with his old things, and as his memory surges back, he rushes to the hotel. He tears the wall and finds chapter 23 of the book. After killing Laura, he took her to the shrubs where he covered her body. However, Nut saw him. He chooses to get back to the room and composes his suicide note. Yet that suicide note transforms into a book with fictitious names. After composing the book, he leaps through the window, yet he makes due with a head injury and loses his memory. His doctor gets the composition when he is taken to the clinic, as he totally loses his memories. The number tortures the doctor, who in the end prints out the book in a hidden name. Upset, Walter cries in the room. Agatha meets him there to support him anyway. He fears that he might kill Agatha as well, so he rushes to remain before a truck to commit suicide. While Ned is gazing at him, that is the point at which he sees Robin. He does not believe Robin should get a similar trauma he got in the wake of watching his dad bite the dust. So he pulls out. At that point, accommodates with his family by embracing them. In the following scene, Walter admits to the wrongdoing. Laura is covered at the graveyard and Kyle is released. Walter anticipates his condemning in 7 days. Confident about a merciful judgment, he additionally sees the number 23 on the clock as the film closes.